How often do we find everything else of more importance to invest in? But we don't invest in self. Only when we invest in ourselves and develop self are we able to touch others, to make a difference, and to grow everything else that we truly want to grow. So tap into our spaces, connect with us on our social media platforms, and we look forward to partnering with you so that you can become everything that you'd like to become. Hello beautiful people, Medina from Live Life Boldly. And today I really want to talk about frustration. You know, so many of us find ourselves in a space of frustration. And when frustrated, you need to have a channel. You need to be true to yourself. You need to allow the frustration, to leave you. Because if you don't, it just builds and builds and builds. And sometimes it actually makes you feel ill. We look at all the different illnesses that people have today, cancer being one of them, strokes, and I can go on, but mental wellness is so important. We don't realize that just something as basic as being frustrated can contribute negatively to our well-being. I've been reading a book by Brené Brown, Atlas of the Hearts, and Brené Brown is an amazing author. I refer to her often because one of her core topics is vulnerability. And a point she makes here, vulnerability is not a weakness, it's our greatest measure of courage. How many of us actually practice vulnerability? We're so afraid, and it just comes back to the whole fear angle. We're fearful. We know what we should be doing, but how many of us actually do it? In so many ways, we compromise who we are. There is no courage without vulnerability. Courage requires the willingness to lean into uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. How many of us want to expose ourselves? Again, that's where fear creeps in. And another point here, vulnerability is not oversharing. It's sharing with people who have earned the right to hear our stories and our experiences. Now, when one's been vulnerable, yes, it's courage. But have we decided who we're going to speak to? Because there's certain people in our spaces, in our circles, that we can trust. And then there's others that we speak to where we're exposing matters of the heart, but it's not actually safe. So do we have discernment? Are we aware of who we should be speaking to and who we shouldn't be speaking to? Because in a space of pain, of frustration, we need to be speaking to people that have got our backs. And that comes to my quote for the day. And if we look at the quote, learn to distinguish who deserves an explanation, who deserves one answer, and who deserves absolutely nothing. We say things. We say things that we truly want to believe. And one of them is, don't attach yourself to the outcome. And I say this all the time, because you're opening yourselves up for pain. You're opening yourself to disappointment. And I stand there assertively and I say what it is that I feel and really believe that I am going to detach myself from it. But truth be told, as a human, in the human flesh, it is difficult. It is so difficult to detach yourself because, you keep on just hoping that you're going to get some kind of response. You keep on hoping that there's going to be some kind of acknowledgement. And when there isn't, there's almost like a hole. There's a sense of depletion. And yet, you're the one that stood out and shared, this is the way you feel, and I'm absolutely detaching myself. I'm getting into this with no expectation, no obligation. But are we being truthful? Are we really being truthful? And when we're not being truthful, we still open ourselves up for disaster. So it takes a lot of work. It really takes a lot of work. You've got to look at yourself and you've really got to think about what it is that you're asking for, what it is that you're expecting. And everything takes time. We need to practice. We need to be truthful. And we really need to decipher, what is it that I truly want? What is the outcome that I really want? And then stand to your truth. When you're assertive, there's respect for the other person. It doesn't matter how you're feeling on the inside, but you have to acknowledge how you're going to leave the other person feeling, but you still have to share your truth. And that's with assertiveness, when you believe truly in what it is that you're saying. But there's times where we come across arrogantly, and arrogance is one-sided. Arrogance is dictatorship. Arrogance is not giving the other person the true value and respect that they deserve. So we have to ensure that we know the difference between being assertive and being arrogant. I've been referring to a number of her quotes, and only when we know our darkness, and I'm talking about when we know our darkness well, can we be present with the darkness of others. So what is darkness? If we think about darkness, we look at ourselves, we look at the dark spaces that we've actually been through, and it's a hard place to go to. It's a real hard place to go to. But once we start dealing with our darkness, we find ourselves in a space where we look at others' darkness and we can be the light for others. Now, if we haven't dealt with our own darkness, it's not easy to deal with others because it's almost a reflection. Others behave in a certain manner, you looking in at them, and it triggers something within you. Now, this is an alert. This is telling you, as human beings, we come to that whole relationship. Again, Brené Brown talks about the relationship between compassion and empathy. We need to have compassion. Empathy, where you can actually feel what the other person is feeling, but you're not sort of camping there. You're not taking it on personally, but you have compassion for what it is that this person is feeling. And I always use this quote, I say, which I give in layman's terms. It's like we visit the cemetery. You visit it because you acknowledge that you've lost somebody and you want to sort of have a memory. So you visit, but you don't camp there. You don't build your house there. You don't stay there. And that's when I talk about having the empathy for someone, but not taking it all on. Which then takes us back to the darkness that I'm referring to. And I find that I've had to deal with so much of my own darkness. And that's why I find myself in a position where I have the ability to stand firm and take on the pain of others. And when I say take on the pain of others, again, I'm not talking about permanent. I'm talking about having a listening ear. I'm talking about rather being kind than always being right. And everything that I've shared today relates and ties back to the quote, to distinguish who we need to give an explanation. Because many times we compromise self. We compromise self to such a point that it is depleting. And we shouldn't be doing that. Mental wellness is of utmost importance. So I would really encourage every one of you to really take care of self. I've had so many people that have joined this space, that have joined the Living Life Boldly program, and from beginning to end, they were so uncertain, so unsure of what they were going to get out of it, and they stepped in and was so amazed at how much baggage they were actually carrying. And we connected first as a group, we connected individually, and when I look at the return on where some of the groups are today, they are flourishing. So what do? We allow you to be the best version of you. We give you the tools to help you to grow from strength to strength. We really just press buttons that makes you open your mind, to change your thinking, and to plan, to become who you want to become. You actually do all the work. You just need a sounding board. You just need somebody to direct you in the direction that you truly want to go. I will encourage you to live life boldly. If you're not living life boldly yet, stay well and stay blessed.